Uh-oh.
Oh no!
The two T-pose win?
Is this gonna be it? Is it two T-pose growing sun for the win? Is that what's gonna happen right now? That we are going to crown the Richmond champion off of two T-pose? He can't take it off the board! And now Fungus is your Richmond champion!
This is easy.
Greetings and salutations, my fellow Illumineers. It is me, your boy JDZ, and I'm back at you again with another Lorcana video. Today, I have another special treat fresh off of his victory in DLC in Richmond. I have the one and only, the first person to ever win with the Sapphire and Emerald strategy. With me today, I have none other than DLC champion, Fungus! Yo, Mr. Fungus has showed up to the quest world, and I gotta thank you so much for sharing some of your time. And I want to start by saying the biggest congratulations to you for coming out and getting it done, persevering through some arduous rounds, and coming out on the other side as the DLC Richmond champion. I gotta ask, big dog, how does it feel? What's going through your mind? Talk to him about being a champion.
Yeah, man. I've talked to a few other people. Everybody's asking at this point, and my buddy Pierre Sailor, somebody said, man, he looks the saddest person who's ever won a gold Mickey. Like they just saw me, beat Luke, or I forget who it was at that round. But I'm trying to stay cool as a cucumber. Really just I value consistency, right? I want to be able to, take everything in stride, and take a win in stride, and take a loss in stride. So that's, I think that's really gotten inside of my psyche at this point. But it is awesome. Like I've had big finishes before in other games, and in Lorcana, I've had tons of top cuts where I've been able to get some cash out, some events, and get some prizing and stuff like that. But I've never been able to spike an event this size. So this is a really exciting time for me, and just hoping to, make the best of it, and keep the success going.
Right on, man. But for those that may be tuning in that may not know who Fungus is, can you just take a couple of minutes to just introduce yourself and just talk about your experience? How did you get into the game? What games did you play before, if any success you may have had there? And when did you find your way into Lorcana?
Yeah, I won't deep dive you too much, but I'm an old man. I'm pushing 40 is about to be up here. So I've been playing trading card games since about 1998. Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Marvel Versus system, if anybody remembers that. I played which is really who pioneered the resource system we're using, in Lorcana now, and WoW TCG, Hearthstone, all of these games I played at a competitive level. I have, and to varying degrees of success, but I've always been pushing a pro level in the games that I'm playing. I try to, and I'm the kind of just got an addictive personality, man. If I'm playing something, I'm all in. I put everything I've got into it. I've also been a judge and tournament organizer for a fair amount of time, especially in Magic the Gathering. I was a judge for a good amount of time as a young man. So I have some experience on that side of the house too. And I'll be able to talk with some Lorcana folks and get their perspective and give them some sage wisdom from the old folks who've been judges for a long time, on that too. So I come from a competitive space, but I've been all over the block and for a long time, man. So I've, from Lorcana, I started in set 1. My wife and I got the cards as soon as we could. I bought Elsa's for $50 a piece just to play Ruby Amethyst.
Let's go.
Yeah, we spent a lot of money to get into this game because you couldn't, the cards were very sought after, right? Like it was very hard to get in the game very early on, but the excitement was there. And my, I come from Magic the Gathering, which is can be a complicated game to get into in a 1v1 space, especially at the time when we were coming in. My wife had never played trading card games before, but she was a big Disney fan. Right. I was a Disney fan, for my part into the 90s and all the good stuff. When I was of the age where, the kids movies were kind of generated for me. Right. But I didn't have any kids, anything like that. So I kind of fell off, at a certain point. Right. We weren't picking them up as they were coming out. But my wife was a big Disney fan, and she's worked with children her whole life. So she obviously knew all the kids movies and loved all the characters and stuff, especially the ones I didn't know. So I was like, man, this is a really good place for us to to mesh these things. She likes the Disney characters. I can play this game with her. It looks like this is going to be really fun. I saw a lot of people working on the game that I knew from other spaces, which got me excited that this might be a good one. So we dove in head first, and she got excited about the game, and she was playing pretty heavily at the beginning. She's not a competitive gamer, so she likes the cards, she likes collecting, she likes seeing all the fun characters and stuff like that, and she encourages me. But I stuck with it, man. I just got the itch, and as it was more successful in my area, and we started having a lot of big tournaments, even at our local level, that excitement grew, and I was really in. So I really just quit all my other games and was like, this is what we're doing. I'm into this.
And you just push all the way through. And everyone who knows you online, or everyone who has seen you participate in some of these various tournaments and along the scene around the community, everyone knows you like to get it in, man. You are an absolute grinder. You're always on the grindstone, putting in the work, getting to the top. But speaking of getting to the top, you're a DLC champion now. Have you had any success or any other experiences in Disney Lorcana, any other notable tops that you may have had before this?
So I look back at just how many top cuts and that kind of things I've had before. Somebody else asked me a similar question recently, and I had I think about 13 different top 8 finishes at various open tournaments. Your Star City Games, your PPGs, CCS, which is in my backyard. Really shout out to Charlie for keep holding it down out there. But yeah, just all kinds of different open tournaments where there was a competitive scene. It was going to be a bigger tournament. I was in anything I could get my hands on. I played, but I've had 13 different top finishes prior to this one. So nothing at the DLC level, but for Lorcana space, I've been getting it in a little bit.
Okay. But in terms of DLC, have you attended a DLC before? Is this your first DLC, or were you able to play at all in the season 1? If so, how did that go?
So yeah, in Milwaukee was my first DLC. Season 1, I tried to get tickets to all of them, especially the one in my backyard in Atlanta. I would have loved to have been to that one. Atlanta was a kind of a one where I got on the wait list. It's just the worst feeling in the world. The day of the DLC, I got an email. They sent me, "Hey, you're off the wait list." I was already out of town for something else, and I'm like, man, I wish I'd have gotten this a little bit sooner. So somebody must have dropped out at the last minute or something. But that was the only one I think I could have potentially even attended. The rest of them, the tickets go fast. They were hard. Yeah. It was a very hard time getting tickets, especially season 1, wherein I didn't know, how to get in there. How to just be ready at the button at the right times, and kind of the tips and tricks to get these tickets. So Milwaukee was my very first DLC. I went X3 at that one. Kind of some variants took the wheel on that one. Not to blame everything on things, but I might have some cursed dice or something. I played between day 1 and day 2. So between day 1 and my Infinity event, I played 15 rounds and I lost 14 dice rolls.
Oh my goodness!
So I was like, well, sometimes this ain't your. So I went 5-3 in the main event. Almost made day 2. In my last round, when I lost my last die roll, I'm like, all right, this ain't meant to be. It's okay. I played a really strong opponent. He got there. We had a really close one, but he got there, of course. And I think that format for Milwaukee was a little bit more play draw than this current one. I think most people will agree with me on that are deep in the trenches. That fabled metagame. People were still feeling things out, but it definitely was more play draw dependent. So that was my first one ever. It was Milwaukee. I did well in the Infinity the next day, for what it's worth. I went X1 in the Infinity event, so I got a little bit of prizing to take home. But for Richmond, I came in with kind of moderate expectations. I expected to do well and just do my best round by round. Friday night, I played in the event there, and I went X1. The one match I lost, I felt like was winnable. A couple of things could have broke my way, and it would have been okay. So I felt good on the deck. And then into day 1, in the 7th round, I was first seed, so I was feeling good about that. Was able to pick up 7 wins in a row. Took a loss to a really strong dogs player to go 7-1 to end it. Unfortunately, came back the next day, lost my first match of the day. Got a little bit of had to do a rebreather and just refocus here for a little bit, but was able to win the rest of them on the day to make it up to that top cut, man. So I was really was just trying to, I had minor goals, right? Make day 2, which we got there, make that top 32 or even top 64, right? Just, round by round. But just kept, pushing those goals as we went along and trying to kind of manage my expectations as I went along, but at the same time, do my best. So that was kind of my focus point.
That's dope, man. I think that's so important. I think to hear you say that, and I hear other players say that too, because a lot of people don't really have that approach. They say they see when things start to go poorly, and you're not getting those wins, or you take that very critical loss, and then it starts to snowball because you get into that wrong mental state. Can you just kind of speak to that, your own mental toughness? Because the deck that you're playing, we're going to go ahead and start talking about that deck here soon. But the deck you're playing, in my opinion, is one of the most complicated decks in the entire format. It requires so much mental tax to be able to play this deck over such a long period. Oh, and now you put on top of that, if things aren't going well, like you're not winning these dice rolls, you are having bad matchups. How do you kind of manage that as a DLC champion from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, and so it's something, I'm a teacher in real life. I'm now a corporate trainer, so I used to teach high school students, and I've worked with all kinds of people of all ages over the course of my career. Both in TCGs, working as kind of a mentor to certain people, and then coming into this space and in professional life. So I'm used to talking people down off the cliff a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's focus on our controllables, that kind of thing. So, and I try to take my own advice on that. Especially I had a good buddy. I keep name dropping him, but that's okay. He's a good dude. Tyler Burdett. A lot of people know his brother Kendall Burdett. He had a lot of success. But we were working together, and he checked in several points in the tournament, and just kind of the wheels were falling off for him a little bit, and just we're just keeping ourselves honest and talking through it. But no, I mean, it's been I try to be a really logical guy. Understand that there's all you can do is control your controllables. Win what is winnable and make the best decisions with what you have available to you. And then if you do take a loss, refocus a little bit. What could I have done differently? Is where I go to first. And if I don't have anything I can grab there, then I'm satisfied with it. I obviously would like success, but if I'm, it's a long game. You will spike an event every once in a while, but consistency is king for me.
And it all starts, speaking of consistency, it's always going to start with the deck. And on the screen right now, I have up your deck list that you brought to this event, a deck that a lot of people around the community know you for. This is your bread and butter, Emerald and Sapphire. As I stated in the intro, this is the first ever Emerald Sapphire DLC champion in the history of Disney Lorcana, and now you have that to go with you forever, and no one can ever take that away from you. But you're playing this deck in a very unique way. I mean, in this deck, there is no Under the Sea, there is no Hades the Infernal Schemer. It seems like it's hyper consistent, and you are playing it to the utmost of your capability. So really quickly, can you just kind of tell me the history of this deck? How did it get to this point? What changes from this Wisps in the Whale set were added to put this deck over the top? And just kind of describe how you get to this point in this super streamlined Sapphire Emerald strategy.
Yeah, I don't know how far back we want to go, but I'll talk through, even so I've been playing it since set 7, and specifically I've been playing blue-green once the Hyrule Popsicle bans. So I was a blue-red player. I've always been a control player in every game I've gravitated towards. You will never see me questing for 2 on turn 2. It's just not going to happen. It's just I'm going to try to remove everything, make it clean. I don't want to see too many characters out. It makes me anxious. Again, anxiety. So I'm really a control player at heart, whatever game I'm into. So I gravitate towards the decks that give me the most decision points, let me play a longer game, and are, I don't want to say the most skill intensive, but give me the best ability to express my brand of skill, right? The skill that I have the most, which is taking it longer and kind of playing a little more analytical game. So I played blue-red for the longest time. I've had a lot of success with blue-red in various forms, all the way back, I believe, to set 3 when the best tools kind of came available there. So I'll be prepared. A lot of people, but once those tools weren't there as much anymore, I kind of floundered for a little bit. I was looking for a strategy that meshed well with my play style. And set 7, I gravitated towards green blue. I reached out to the community there was this very small community that was working on it there. JP, a guy from Europe who's had success there at Continentals on that side, was kind of one of the main champions of the deck at the time, and he had a build that he liked, and it wasn't being worked on very heavily by a lot of people who were putting grind in, but he was one of the early people that I reached out to him, like, hey, what are we looking like here? What kind of work have you put into it? I want to help. So we started working together on that deck list for set 7. In set 7, I had some success at CCS with it. Even then, it was a very rogue strategy. I felt like Muses was in play at that point, and with Clarabelle, and it was really strong. It had some really polarized matchups where if you're playing genies and 2-cost characters, the Muses were going to take over a game with Clarabelle very quickly. But so I got introduced to that style of strategy, kind of 7, 8, 9, right? Once we rotated into Fabled, obviously we've lost Muses and some of those other tools, but it looked like it's kind of one of these things that rising waters, raise all the ships kind of situation. Mm-hmm. So everybody lost their really strong tools. Board wipes were gone. We didn't have really the boogeyman of be prepared where they could take out all your Clarabelles and all your character-based resources easily. So there was a situation where green blue had an opportunity, even though everybody's power level kind of shrunk, to be a contender in that metagame if you could get the tools right. It very much at that phase of things, set 9, once rotation happened, you really were focused on Clarabelle still, but the game was a little bit slower, and you could kind of be picky about your mulligans and things, and just make sure you got 7-cost Clarabelle, and then leverage that character, right? That was really the name of the game in that one. We played stuff like Stop Chaos in his tracks, and Mother Knows Best, obviously, and Hades in and out of that deck. But set 10 obviously gave us some really huge tools. Prince Philip 9-cost, with Malicious Mean and Scary just provides a lot of power level in that one-sided board wipe, that Sisu coil situation that I was missing. Both being inkable tools. Prince Philip was actually a card we were playing as some number of, even in set 9 without Malicious Mean and Scary. Like, it was a card that was reasonable to put in your deck before then, just as a big clock that sometimes got, maybe it pick off a character or two. So when set 10 came around and this combo came out, we could feel the power level. The people that were working on blue-green for a lot, and it had success with it in previous iterations, but we were like, this is something different. This is, we really have something powerful here. It did, and I will say that at that phase of things, the community were remembering the set 9 and back blue-green that was so focused on Clarabelle. We had to play, all 12 Clarabelles at all times, the 1-cost, the 3-cost, and the 7-cost, and just your Clarabelle shift was the whole deck. We had to make sure we found 7-cost Clarabelle, or the deck didn't really work properly. You had to get it very early in order to really win games. But with this new iteration, you had so much power level that came between Prince Philip and Malicious Mean and Scary, along with, for me, Cinderella was another huge card for this deck that actually gave it a lot of power level in the early to mid game when you didn't, in situations in which you didn't have your big Clarabelle, which, so the deck had a lot of just innate power to bridge the gap when you didn't have 7-cost Clarabelle immediately, and to deal with some of this early aggression. So if people go super wide out of your purple steel decks, playing a lot of early characters and things like that, the little Prince Philip, along with Malicious Mean and Scary, Big Philip can equalize the board and give you a fighting chance against some of these aggressive decks. So we knew there was something powerful going on, and there's a big community of blue-green believers that really thought the deck had a lot of potential. People just liked that kind of play style, or didn't have another place where they felt they loved another deck. I played Blurple a little bit myself. I played a little bit of everything, when I thought the meta was right for it. But this is a deck that fit my play style a lot more than everything else we had going. This is where we landed. We knew we had the power level. And to your point, JDZ, people debated on what cards need to go in this deck. There were Under the Seas in the prior deck. You play stuff like Baymax, and you just try to slam it under the sea and put them all under, right?
Mhm.
But the power level went up with set 10 quite a bit. Whispers in the Wells, a really strong set when people all got really good tools, and it just we're at a point where the Under the Sea was not as easy to cast as it used to be when we had stuff like Baymax in the deck and some of these other like really high value singers that we were playing before, kind of as a necessity. And we could lean more on Prince Philip in that mid to late game as a board wipe and as a recovery tool in these types of decks. So more and more, I found that Under the Sea was just a card that often was a little bit clunky. It's hard to cast. It's much harder than it used to be to cast early, and you're not seeing the value on it that you used to be. When your opponent has a bunch of Lexingtons in play, Under the Sea doesn't do anything. Calhoun, Lexington, and Palace Guard in play. I'm not really wanting to tap 2 characters down to Under the Sea a Palace Guard, right? We're not seeing the return on that we used to. So that's kind of the logic. Is we felt like it was good against one specific deck, which is Dogs, right? Dogs was a really strong contender in the metagame, but it was a bad matchup even with Under the Sea in your deck. There was a situation where some of the best Dogs players in the game, I put a lot of reps in with those guys. Shout out to Diego and Habibi and all the Slab Sharks that just cooked me over and over again when I had whether I had Under the Sea in my deck or not. So and the consensus, at least my conclusion, was let's just take this card out. It's a liability in a lot of other matchups. It's uninkable, and it's our bad matchup is still bad. So that was a contention point for a lot of people. I know Jeremy, shout out to him. He's a good dude, and we had a lot of good conversation with him and Pandemonium and all the other folks that work on this blue-green deck and, have a passion for this style of gameplay, had different opinions. And even myself, like on the Friday, I ran Under the Sea in my deck. But that was kind of what the clincher for me was on Friday. I did win one match as a result of Under the Sea, but there were lots of other matchups where I lost games just because Under the Sea was uninkable at the wrong time. It was a card stuck in my hand when I'm trying to dump my hand, get that big Clarabelle payoff. And so even up to Saturday morning, me and the guys I'm testing with were chatting back and forth. And we're like, are we taking this thing out of our deck? And 30 minutes before, I'm like, I'm doing it. Rip it out. Get them out of here. Improvise is back in. So we had success with Improvise at CCS. Tyler and I both had good top cut finishes without Under the Sea in our deck. It was a slightly different meta game. Dogs was a little bit less prevalent in that meta game. So, and they were rising. You asked different people in the room. They were like, okay, you talked to Diego. Diego told us, hey, I sold a lot of Metafy guides. These folks are out here in the streets. They're ready to be. They're gonna eat you up with these dogs. But I looked at Friday and I looked at kind of what's the worst that can happen, right? They're 10 to 15% in a tournament that has this many rounds. How many of them am I going to see? And we had to take a little bit of a chance. I felt like the risk was worth it. That we'll lose against some good Dogs players, but we'll have a good matchup and we'll have our best shot at beating everything else. So that was how we ended up in Improvise. Sky, I know I talked with him at CCS a little bit before this, and we kind of had a similar conversation. Under the Sea has a big price tag with it. It's a liability in a lot of matchups. We'd rather have an uninkable there. I tried a lot of different things in that slot. Over the time, I tried Spooky Sight, Fred. I tried Lewis in that slot. I'm like, how do we beat Dogs? Is there any way we can beat Dogs? And I don't think you can consistently. I think in order to make the deck its highest power level and be strong in your other matchups, it's just never going to be perfect there. Yeah. And that's just the way this game works. Any game works is you can't build a deck that's going to beat everything. You do your best to have the strongest shot for the field you expect, and that's kind of where we landed.
Is that the same goes with Hades the Infernal Schemer? Does he fall in that same paradigm as the Under the Sea, Spooky Sight, that flex uninkable, just being big, helping your opponent? Is that why he didn't make the cut?
As far as Hades is concerned, he is a really strong card, and in Blurple, it's a very different situation than it is something like this blue-green deck. There were different camps of people that really loved Hades and loved the power of that card, but he's at odds with some cards like Mother Knows Best and You're Welcome, just because we get into situations where we are trying to leverage a concept called tempo, where we are trying to make sure that we are able to play multiple things in a turn where they're only able to play, maybe one, fewer things in a turn, right? They have less capability in terms of ink. And once you play stuff like Spooky Sight, once you play stuff like Hades, and you're giving your opponent lots of ink, the value of stuff like You're Welcome and Basil and Mother Knows Best goes way down, right? So that is really the competing philosophy here. Is the deck, the way it's built, we have a board wipe. If they do go wide, we punish them with Prince Philip, and if they don't go wide, we punish them with Clarabelle. So that is and Hayes is kind of the stopgap, right? He's somewhere in between there, where we're taking out one character and we're trying to grind and answer one for one. But I think the deck is at its best when it's playing off of that paradigm. Choose what you want. You want to go wide and lose to Philip, or do you want to kind of play one or two characters and have Clarabelle just blow you out with You're Welcome, Mother Knows Best, Basil, those kind of tools. So that was the philosophy, and I think most of us in that community, Pierre, Sailor from Maelstrom, myself, and a lot of the people working on Blue Green kind of understood that those are the two ways you can build the deck, and that the tempo version was our preferred play style for a lot of people.
Absolutely. I mean, the deck seems super streamlined. In fact, so much so that this was virtually like a one card off mirror match in the grand finals. And we're going to get to that here in just a moment. But as we're talking about this deck, Fungus, we do have set championships. We're still fully enthralled in set championships. This deck should be heavily featured in the set championships run. So can you just explain to anyone who may be considering taking a deck like this to set championships? You talked about those dogs as being a bad matchup. Is there any lines of play that you could describe to maybe have some success versus that matchup? And what are some of the matchups that you're most looking forward to seeing? What are you preying on? And also, after that, can you just discuss the mirror match? Because this mirror match seems extremely volatile for me as someone who maybe doesn't have your level of play. Can you just talk about how to gain that edge in the mirror match on the play and on the draw as well?
Let me maybe start with the first one and talk about kind of tournament approach, right? And this is something I coach to as well. So, and that's why I always ask, what event are you preparing for? For an event like the DLC, we're talking about a 2,000 player event where I am trying to win the majority of my rounds, the grand majority of my rounds, but I don't have to beat every single person in this tournament. I don't have to beat every single matchup all the time. I just have to win. I have to win 10 of these rounds. I don't have to necessarily beat every single Dogs player in the room. Versus a pool like a set champs where, I look at a room of a set champs and I say, okay, I'm probably going to play, maybe a third of these people, I'm potentially going to see every single deck and to win that event, to get that champion play, Matt, you're going to have to, if that Dogs player just happened to win out, I have to beat that person specifically, right? And our approach to a DLC and these bigger events is, okay, I want to go deep in the tournament. And for me, I'm not expecting to win every tournament, but I'm trying to get my value out of this tournament. I'm trying to be consistent, have a deep run, get my nationals invite, go that top 64, whatever it may be. But I would just want a lot of wins, and if it happens to line up for me, and if the matchups work out for me, then yeah, you can spike an event. But I don't come into tournaments saying, hey, I'm going to win this tournament today. I say I'm going to do really well today because I know how I can leverage my skill. For a set championships in a smaller pool, that's a field where I need to look at this and say, okay, if I expect there's going to be one Dogs player in this room, that one Dogs player might be really well positioned to do well, especially if is that the best player in that room, right? I got to beat the best player in the room, and he's on Dogs, and I've got to have a way to win this matchup. Whereas the way the deck was built before, and I'll put an asterisk on this just because at the DLC I did beat Dogs on the draw once, but it was a miracle. I'm going to tell you that I got lucky and my opponent got unlucky a little bit, and I got there by the skin of my teeth. Same thing with the ink caster deck. I played one of those, and it boiled down to, please don't draw, please don't, do not draw something to kill me. I got 3 John Silvers in play. You're at 0 cards in hand. He's at 19 Lord. Do not draw anything. And I got there just barely. My second round opponent probably was the hardest match of the entire event. To be 100% with you, just because I felt helpless. I played this guy with this ink caster deck, and I'm like, this man's just gaining lore. I can't do anything. I can't. You're welcome him. I'm not gonna have you draw 2 cards and draw 2 more burn spells to kill me. Yeah. So I played Little Clarabelle in that matchup, or in that one game, 5 times. I played 3 little Clarabelles and Basil, my own little Clarabelle, twice so that I can kill ink casters. It just did not die, so that's another matchup you're going to see at a set championship. So you got to be prepared to beat these people. And my deck was not prepared to beat these people. I don't know what kind of miracle happened. You got to get lucky a little bit to win a big event. So, but for a set championships, my approach would be probably play under the seas. When I did play set championships, and I took down one before I came in because my locals set championship was actually the weekend of the DLC, so they got to duck and dodge a little bit. Shout out to those guys though. But I did take one down in Auburn, Alabama. But I had to play under the sea in my deck. I had to beat an Inkcaster deck. I had to beat a Dogs deck. So my preparation for that type of tournament is going to be a little bit different than my preparation for something like a DLC where it's a bigger pool and you can duck and dodge these things a little bit just because there's so many people. And the ratios bear that out. But for your set championships, I think have a strategy for everything, and don't take. I can never win to one of the most played decks in the room. Read the room a little bit. You're going to know these folks, hopefully. Scout around a little bit, start talking to people. Hey, Joe, what are you playing today? You got some kind of idea. That man doesn't own every card in the game. You just lent him 4 genies. You know what he's doing with those. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, for these smaller events where you absolutely have to win to take down the prize, build your deck in such a way that you can beat everything. At least have a chance to beat everything.
Right on.
So
right on.
that's my set champs advice. As far as you talked about the blue-green mirror a little bit. I don't want to be braggadocious on this, but to your point, I've been playing blue-green a very long time, and especially in set 10, I was one of the pioneers of this deck, and one of the people that early said, this is something real. This is a really strong deck. I think this can beat everything, especially the top decks in the meta right now. I think if we had a blue-green deck win at CCS, it would have been a little bit less viable, honestly, because people would have been a little more prepared for it. But what ends up happening, in the time between CCS, that really big, usually is one of those big first early tournaments. We used to be SSG as well in that kind of pool, but CCS tends to be that, hey, we have 400, 500 people in a room. We're going to duke it out early in the set and see what this meta's tended to look like. Blue-green had a lot of top finishes, but did not win the event. That Monstro combo won the event. That Monstro combo is also another deck where people aren't just going to pick that thing up and play it. So what's left is purple steel decks, is blurple decks, all these amethyst strategies that people, you already bought these genies. Like I said, we're going to play these things. So everybody was, picking their splash color for amethyst, but ultimately they share like 70% of the same cards. So, blue-green was still a little bit under the radar, combined with the fact that, at your locals, not everyone's picking up blue-green because not all the play lines are necessarily obvious all the time. You have to kind of know how to shape your hand, how to shape your ink, when to pivot to different strategies. And it's a long explanation I could give on that, but there's a lot of decision points, and it's not obvious where the power level in the deck lies and how you beat everything. So some people probably tried the deck, saw, oh, this is a cool deck. I like Clarabelle. I like Prince Philip. Everybody when the set came out for set 10 thought, Prince Philip MMS combo, and it's like, oh, this is amazing. But even some really strong players were like, well, this isn't enough to win the game. You can do this, and you can take out all 4 characters or whatever, but you've got to. How are you winning? That's not enough. You just have a three quester in play. So there's a lot more to it than that. You do have to set yourself up in such a way that these lines make sense in the context of the matchup you're playing in. So because of that, there were fewer people that were on blue-green, which meant that there were fewer blue-green mirrors in general. But the blue-green mirror, the way the deck plays out it's just haymakers. You do have to understand where the decision points are. If both players are playing bend to my will, and I think most blue-green players came to the consensus that we've got to play one of these things, and we really can't play more than that because it's a liability. But I'm sure you guys saw in the finals, the first two games this guy and I played, I found my early tools. I found my bend to my will. He did not. Game over. He didn't draw a Clarabelle immediately, so that was done. If you're in a certain resource advantage, it just shuts the door. And so the matchup tends to be about a few different angles, where first is, okay, how do I play around bend to my will or make it the least impactful it is when this happens to me? Because it's going to happen at some point. Like, or you can kind of prepare yourself in such a way that to make their bend the worst it can be. So that can be something like your draw resources, like your Donalds. It can be obviously Clarabelle. If they bend you with a Clarabelle in play, you're just going to draw right back up. So make them have additional resources plus the bend to be able to bend you. The other big resource game that you play is singers, right? Do I have enough singers to leverage this Clarabelle, or can I take out the opposing Clarabelle? The thing I preach to people who are, like, hey, how does the mirror go? The big thing is not who has the first Clarabelle, it's whoever has the last Clarabelle. Not necessarily the second Clarabelle, but whoever has the last Clarabelle remaining is probably going to win that matchup most of the time. Barring some edge case scenarios, right? So if you're the one that's controlling the game and getting so many resources and inking so much every turn in the driver's seat, you're gonna win that. So it's about, in the very early phases of the game, setting up your singers in such a way that if they get an early Clarabelle, you can punish them for it by singing multiple songs in turn, that kind of thing. And you saw that in our matchup too. There was a situation where Sky got the early Clarabelle, but I set up something like Cindy Donald or Donald. I can't recall which one it was. I had my Clarabelle ready to go. He went first in that matchup, but I had so much ink and had so many singers at the point it happened. I was able to, you're welcome, 2 Clarabelles on the same turn and just shift the tempo. And that was the game. That was the entire game right there. I drew so many cards that turn, and he was so far behind because he didn't have more singers to fall back on. That is another one of the key resources. And Sky knew that. Like, he obviously, you played in what you have and you're available. So there's that aspect to it where I gotta make sure I'm not getting bent, but I also gotta make sure I have enough singers. And then the other resource, and this is where Hades comes into play, is going to be, okay, what's the ink threshold they have in play? Are they at 9 ink and they do have a singer? Okay, well then Philip's live, right? We can MMS Philip, everything goes away. Or are they at 12 ink? Okay, well I can MMS Philip from 0. Just 2 cards in hand. So there's all these different aspects. And if you guys have the audio on, you definitely would have heard us ask, hey, how much ink do you have over there? Okay, how many cards in hand? How much ink? It's one of these things where you got to watch all these resources. You also have to watch, your ink in that matchup specifically, it's going to go long the grand majority of the time. You have to make sure you're not inking your key resources, but at the same time, you have to be inking aggressively. You have to be inking every single turn for the entire game. Typically, right? You have to get to 18, 19, 20 ink because it's a resource game where if I can play more things on turn than you can, I'm going to win that game. At the same time, if I'm inking all my key resources, I'm putting on my big Phillips in the ink, which are a resource, but they're not good in every situation. They're not doing anything when I'm trying to put pressure on this board. So there's card counting involved. There's just monitoring all these resources. The mirror is a crazy one, and it's just haymaker after haymaker, man. If both players are of equal skill and equal knowledge, it comes down to these breakpoints, and I'm sure you guys saw that.
Listen. It is what it is. We've just been doing this interview, and just the idea of you talking about this, I'm already getting a headache. There's no way I can do that for 17 pure rounds of tournament, high profile, high intensity. You're sweating. I mean, these are some super sweaty matches because these stakes could not be higher. But go ahead and take us. So you are kind of talking about the finals right now. Take us back to that finals, man. So you're sitting down at the grand final table. Across from you is Sky, who everyone in the community knows is a phenomenal Disney Lorcana player, is one of the best players we have in the entire game. You guys are playing this mirror match, best of 5, and here you are. You're going in on the draw, okay? And you come out and you take us to a straight 2-0 victory on the draw. How does that feel? Where are you at emotionally at that current moment?
Yeah, I mean, the lead up to that, right, is Sky and I know each other pretty well. We were both early adopters of the game and got in at the very ground floor. But, even in the brackets and talking throughout the tournament, because we knew we were like 1 card apart. We joked about it. I'm like, okay, how many of this do you have? And he's like, well, how many do you have? But we were pretty sure we're like 1 card, if not 0 cards apart. But he ended up having I think one less John Silver and one more improvise, and that's the difference. That was the whole difference. So we came to the same conclusion pretty early on that this is the way we wanted to play the deck. And we saw the bracket, and we saw, okay, there's shout out to Nathan from 2 Gaming who played purple, green, amethyst, emerald, burn. We were like, oh yeah, this is danger. We can't play that. So, but if somebody beats him, we're looking good. Like there's Blurple in this field, and there's purple steel, man. This is looking great. And we're opposite sides of the bracket. So I had to play Luke Wonderland in round 1. Great player who was on Under the Sea, which can be a resource in that matchup, but it also could be a liability. So it kind of goes both ways. I was on the play for every single match until I got to Sky and 12th seed. All the other lower seeds got eliminated by the time I got to him. So, once I got Luke, we looked at the rest of this bracket, and okay, he's playing purple steel. I'm playing Blurple. I'm playing, and I played really strong players. Obviously, I played against DKP. I played against Freddie, who is a really strong player. Shout out to him. And I played against Rob on Blurple. But I know the Blurple matchup really well. I think we're really favored if we're on the play. And I even talked to DKP a little bit, and he's like, oh, I'm about to get cooked by Green Blue on camera. I don't know why they're putting this on camera. And I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know. Anyway, so so I felt good about it, even though I knew there were really strong players ahead of me. Obviously, don't want to jinx anything, but we both saw our bracket and said, okay, this is about to be a blue-green finals. We said that out of top 32. In top 16, we're like, yeah. We both have a really strong path to get there if this Emerald Amethyst deck is out of here. And Rob got the Emerald Amethyst deck out of here. Shout out to him. Thank you so much, Rob. You did doing some work out there. Love it. For Blurple too, that is a tough matchup. So I know he did some work. I hope that's on camera. I didn't go back and check, but that's one I want to watch back. Is just how he ended up winning that matchup, and I know he has like Wasabi in his deck, so maybe part of it. So anyway, so even we were manifesting this very early on. We were both talking through it, and we both knew like, all right, so we got to play a mirror match. This is I had to play several mirror matches, but I had to play an almost exact mirror match. On the draw is not as big of a deal in that matchup as it can be in other matchups. Just because, some of the things I talked about earlier, it's a resource management game, and it's not necessarily who just can slam first. If you can get way ahead on ink and you can get a Clarabelle out there with a bunch of singers, obviously being on the play can help you do that. But being on the draw actually can be a resource as well, because the types of hands that are valuable in the mirror are ones where, hey, we're keeping like multiple sales or multiple TPOs, right? So we actually can value that extra card on the draw. And again, just being reactive a little bit. So if you play Clarabelle first and your opponent has a bunch of singers to be able to react, actually can be at advantage. I wouldn't choose to go second, but it's, there's play there, right? There's reasons where you could actually come back. I want to say first 2 games, I had those resources that really did take advantage of having that extra card. It was like Tipo into Cindy both games, leveraging a Clarabelle with a singer out after he played his. So it worked out great for me. I had the singers available to me and found those early bends, and that's what you need to do to win the game. Going into game 3, there was a really critical decision. So I played game 3, and I felt in the driver's seat. I'm sure you guys saw it. Like I was on the play. I had good resource management and things like that. I want to say it was like a small Clarabelle into like Sale, Donald, something like that, right? And there was a point in which I didn't have a good return play, right? I had like the Philip combo in hand, like I had the small Philip, big Philip, and MMS in hand, and I saw that his Clarabelle was coming. So instead of playing my own Clarabelle and just letting it get your welcomed or whatever and getting kind of tempoed out, instead I inked almost my entire hand. And there was a decision. If you go back and look on camera, you'll see that I tanked for a good couple minutes on that last ink. I went double Sale, a small Philip, and I'm like, okay, I have 2 cards in hand or whatever. I can ink 1 more card, but do I want to? And it was a big Clarabelle. And I had I want to say last card was like a Cindy or something. So the big Clarabelle, obviously, as ink, is going to decrease the amount of things he can do against me, right? Because if he Clarabelles me, he's going to draw fewer cards. But I think in hindsight, if I held that 7-cost Clarabelle in hand, I win that game 100% of the time. I Philip combo him the next turn. At that point, he's low on resources. I can slam Clarabelle and draw up. But he had a Donald in play or something that I remember. So I was like, okay, I'll rely on his draws a little bit. Over the course of this game, I will find another 7-cost Clarabelle where I don't need it just right now, right? So I never found another one. So I slammed the door on that. So I ended up having to play like a race game. And that's just not how the deck plays. It's not a fast deck. You can get a Prince Philip really early, but blue green can answer it so easily. So it got down to it. I drew a lot of cards, never found the 7-cost Clarabelle, and at that point, I was like, I squandered an opportunity. Like I knew in my head that one critical decision put me in a position where I have to play more games. Going into game 4, mulligans all 7 cards. Didn't find ramp in 14 cards, and again was in a situation where we're down. I just from 2-0, I have to win another one. I can do it, but I squandered that opportunity last game. It was getting to me a little bit in my head.
Yeah, can you just talk about that really quick though? Like, so you're 2-0. You have that squander, as you say, opportunity, and then now you're in a 2-2 scenario. In your head, how are you staying calm? How are you staying stable? Because you can kind of feel the energy. I was in the room over in the watcher section, and it felt like you could feel like the energy was just shifting. Like everything was going for Sky, and it just seemed like things were just going bad for you. How did you stay mentally tough, mentally focused to keep even kill instead of just completely imploding there?
Yeah. So I think if I had a tough hand in that 5th game, I think I would have gone a bad direction, in mentally, right? Like I'm not sure how my play would have been. I'd have a certain amount of muscle memory on the deck, and you can just tell because the deck does get so exponentially better with more resources. You can kind of fumble. You can fumble once, and the game is over. Especially if they bend you, right? And that's exactly what happened. But in that last game, I had a good hand. I actually had a great hand. I was like turn 1 Clarabelle, Tipo, I believe, turn 2 into Donald, into Shift Clarabelle Sing. He had the tools to deal with it, but I got way ahead on resources because I did have that good hand. So I was like, okay, I'm invigorated. I know this is the hand, what a hand looks like that is a winning line, and this is one. So I was hyped for myself. I'm like, okay, I'm winning this. I got this. He had a comeback. He had a comeback potential at one point where you're welcomed him. He drew like 10 cards or something, and I drew 10 cards. And then there was a turn where I think on my 6 ink turn, I went Prince Philip, after he got rid of my Clarabelle, and I just quested for 6, and I just started sending everything. And I'm like, all right, I'm advantaged. He has to kill all these things or get rid of them, and he's on like 5 ink at this point, or 6 ink. And just like I talked about, those 3 critical thresholds, right? 6 ink is not that. You have to be at 9 ink, and if you're at 9 ink with a singer, if I can just keep a singer off the board, I can just quest to victory the entire way. You have a long way to go to stop me. I had maybe 2 turns. He got maybe 2 turns at most to stop this double worded Prince Phillips. So he played masterfully. Like, shout out to Sky in that moment. I think he went like Cindy, Tipo or something, just to make sure he could get to enough ink to get a Prince Philip combo off before I got there. He got the Prince Philip combo off right when I got to, or it wasn't even a Prince Philip combo. It was like challenge with a Clarabelle, challenge with a Cindy, and Prince Philip to like kill to get rid of the one that had like 1 damage on it. Right, he didn't even have the full combo, but he played his outs of just take back the board, stop the questing. I think it was a 17 lore at that point with a Tipo in play. So shout out Tipo for the first time. And I was like, okay, at that point I had a Visions in my hand, and I knew what I had to do. I had already inked 1 3-cost Philip. He, at this stage of the game, a couple of turns later, he had inked 2 big Phillips and had 2 big Phillips in play. And I know he already Mother Knows Best one of his Phillips too. So I'm like, okay, this is locked. I just need to find my last small Phillip, and he cannot stop this at 18 lore with this Tipo in play, right? I quest to 18 with the Tipo, and the small Phillip gets me there. So I found Visions, found Develop, and he's not nowhere to be found. So at that point, I took like a Cinderella, and I'm like, all right, I just need to be able to double play next turn at least, and give myself an out of, do I draw a small Clarabelle, and maybe he doesn't kill his Tipo? I don't know why he wouldn't do that. but I wasn't thinking about that. I'm just like, I'm going to make him have it. So I have the Cinderella. He ended up bouncing the Tipo, which, I don't want to like call it a misplay, because it's not. Wasn't obvious in that moment that, and it's so rare that this deck is going to go triple small character like that, just because of the average ink cost in the deck is something like 5 to 7, right? We're talking about big things. So he went for a line to win. If he had his last big Clarabelle on shift, in which I was also tracking that, he had inked 3 big Clarabelles because they were useless to him that matchup, because I had no cards in hand for most of it. So he inked 3 big Clarabelles already. I card counted that. I knew his Prince Phillips were out of his deck. I knew he must have had his 4th big Clarabelle, shift on that small Clarabelle, and he kills me, or takes it, right? When he didn't have it and he basiled my Tipo, I still was pretty sure I wasn't going to get there. He had too many cards in hand not to have at least one answer. And he had already inked a You're Welcome, right? So I'm like, okay, he must have an answer for something, something like a Donald. So I'm not going to be able to just put a 2-quester out there. And I didn't draw the 3-drop Phillip, which is the card that would have ended the game outright. But I drew Tipo, and I just counted it up. I have 8 ink. Wow, let's do this. All right, you got it. And then I threw it to him. He develops, and he had a sad look on his face. I'm like, Sky, don't slow roll me. Just slam it. Just show me I'm dead. And he's like, "Oh, you're not dead. This is bad," or something along those lines. Like we were pretty chatty.
Yeah.
Up until the middle part where we got super tense, we were pretty chatty in the matchup. And at the very end, we got a little bit chatty too. And he was digging, he was looking, and he was like, "Yep, there's no way out of here." I bounce Cinderella, and then people chanted Tipo, man. So that's my new identity.
And let me tell you, Fungus, a little personal information about myself. Tipo is my least favorite card in the entire game. Okay, so Tipo winning a DLC just has me in absolute shambles. Ban Tipo immediately. Okay, I think he should be out of here. But man, just the level of stress, my cortisol would be through the roof. I would have a heart attack as I'm sitting there with this Cindy double Tipo on board, staring down Oblivion, and just hoping that there is nothing that my opponent can do. That must have been a feeling that I don't think you'll ever forget.
All you can do is play to your outs, man. That's what I keep telling people is like, don't. And like, the main thing I stress in all my coachings, all my teachings, we're talking about Lorcana, is recognize what your outs are and make them have it. Don't play to not lose, if that makes sense. Don't just stall the game. Take lines that are going to win you the game and make them have it. And that was where I was at. I was just going to present lethal, make sure, okay, you have 2 pieces of removal? You don't? Oh, cool. All right, well, I'm going to walk away with a trophy, I guess.
Dang. And then you are crowned. So now you are the DLC Disney Lorcana Challenge champion, walking around with that trophy. You got your entire play set. How's that moment there? How did that feel for you there? You now have achieved a goal that every Illuminator that plays this game wants to do, being that DLC champion. You are going to the Disney Lorcana World Championship in beautiful Orlando, Florida. Just talk about that. How does that feel? Is that a check off the bucket list? Is that something you've been striving for? What is going to be happening next? How do you keep your edge sharp now that you've achieved your ultimate success?
A lot of people will make this like grandiose kind of hey, I'm going to win a DLC, I'm going to win worlds, all this stuff. It's just not my way. It kind of how we talked about earlier in the interview. I'm just seeking to be consistent, right? I am looking for more success in other venues. I want to go to nationals and have success there. I want to go to worlds and have success there, and try to make sure I keep putting the work in along the way. Finding strategies that work. I want to continue making content and helping people, make sure that the community grows. It's important to me that people have good resources to fall back on, and hopefully create some momentum and some example of making content, not just explaining why you should do something and how you should do something, showing people winning lines so they can have the resources to, if they want to develop as a player, if they want to develop these skills and they put the time in, they can do it themselves. So it's important to me that the community grows, that we have success, and this game goes for a long time, because not just because I'm successful at it, because I enjoy playing it. So it's, so community wise, but I'm I'm looking just the next tournament. I was looking today when I had a little bit of time at lunch of, what's the next tournament I'm going to. I think in March I'm going to try to go to Houston for CCS. For another event, I'm I think I'm going to end up being qualified already for the invitational he's putting on for the 50K there. So I want to go to that tournament. I want to have success. I want to make sure that I'm staying sharp, right? Like, I've even, and somebody asked me this, hey, you got a big gap in between where, the Infinity DLC, what are we doing until then? I even have my eyes on like alternative formats, stuff like Porcana, if you ever heard of that, is something I played a tournament of that locally where I organized that for, kind of the tail end of a format. We didn't really have much to do. I'm like, oh, let's try this out. Let's just everybody build new decks and we'll see what's up. So I'm going to do something Lorcana with my time. I want to continue honing skills and make sure that I'm not just sitting on, resting or whatever. If anything, I'll make theory videos for YouTube for Lorcana and just try to make sure that we're keeping the game fresh in my mind so that I'm good for the next tournament and stay consistent.
Oh, absolutely. And I got to ask, you kind of segue to my next question, because I always like to end these things with a little bit of community kind of questions, because you're DLC champ, you're a very competitive player, but I know a lot of players in the community, they kind of focus on just one thing. Do you ever play casually, or do you ever play for fun, or do you ever have, time to just let I know we're both bald, I'll say, your metaphorical hair down? And if you do, what is that deck that you kind of lean on as your quote unquote non-competitive strategy?
Man, I don't. That's hard. So my non-competitive decks are competitive, and I hate that. But it's just the way my mind works. I'm looking at a card pool and I'm like, oh, this looks fun. And other people are playing against it, and they're like, that's not fun at all. I hate it. I hate it here. So it is what it is. I try to just make sure everybody having a good time, whatever. But my local folks will tell you, man, it's. For whatever it is, I try to identify unique strategies sometimes and try to lean there and see, hey, can we do something interesting today? And is this good? So, but I, unfortunately, I have the curse of it'll end up being good because I have too much instinct. But I do like playing alternative win conditions and stuff like that from time to time, and just exploring other strategies that haven't been explored, because you never know when you're going to find the next thing that people slept on, and you have a unique advantage if you know how to play that to the best of your ability and better than everybody else. Zan showed us that. Hopefully, I've been able to do that a few times. I think I've been able to again spike some events with blue green where people didn't know what was going on as much, and there's value in that. But yeah, casually, I'll play whatever people throw at me. I'll show up and I'll show up to locals.
You're sweeping the leg though. You're taking no prisoners no matter what.
Maybe not on purpose all the time, but it's just I've got the instincts. Since 1998, I've been playing card games. It's unfortunately I just know I'm gifted with too much knowledge at this point. Right
on. Okay. You mentioned you were a Disney fan though, prior to coming into the game. This is a Disney game. It's called Disney Lorcana. I got to ask you, and I'm going to judge here based on what you say. What is your favorite Disney movie?
I think I'm gonna frame this as I'm a gamer. Okay. And one of the games that I ended up finding out very later on, it is. So I found this out as an adult, but I was a Sega gamer. First of all, shout out to anyone who was not a Nintendo gamer somehow. I had a Sega Genesis and I had a Game Gear. So on Game Gear, the first game I ever got for Game Gear was The Lion King.
Oh my goodness!
The Lion King game for Game Gear, and I think on Game Boy too, is considered one of the hardest games of all time.
Yes, it's insane.
And I remember this vividly. I also have memory stuff where I can remember stuff, way back in the time machine. I remember vividly sitting on my Game Gear with all these giant batteries. If anybody ever had a Game Gear, with my Lion King game, and trying to jump the not the water buffalo, the
giraffes on their head.
I remember this having to make those jumps on with my the little AB on there. It was tough, man. I spent an entire night as a young man, or not even a young man, just a kid, jumping on those giraffes, just getting frustrated. All right, we're doing it again. Reps, get back in there. And eventually beat the Lion King. So that probably is one of the most very formative memory for me. if you're a gamer, guys, you know Elden Ring. Like Elden Ring is one of my favorite games of all time, but it's also one of the hardest games of all time. And I hated that game until I loved it. And so The Lion King has formative memories for me. I do also just love Maleficent as a character, the dragon, the art and stuff. It's beautiful. Shout out to the animators that made the original Maleficent. It's probably the best dragon of all time, the best looking dragon of all time. I'm a big Tolkien fan, and Smaug and all the good stuff there. But that is probably the best looking dragon of all time, from an art perspective. So I'll stick with Lion King, but it's only because of trauma.
Okay, that's a good answer. I've also been traumatized by that game, so I know exactly. Even when you mentioned that, I got a little sudden chill up my own spine. But last thing before we go, I gotta go some Spitfire for the community. Spitfire questions. I'm gonna throw a card to you. You just tell me what you think about it quickly. The card I'm gonna start with is "Bend to My Will." Thoughts?
Let's just stop. Everybody, we talked about this in the green blue chat today, and I want to say in the 20 lore chat, can we have a non-aggression pact? Can everybody decide? We'll just sign a waiver before you come into the matchup. We're not going to play it anymore. So if you're down with this, get in the comments. We can do it as a community. Decide not to play Bend to Our Will. Like a self-ban. But if anybody plays one, it's all over. We have to play it.
A self-ban of Bend to My Will. So you think that card is that good? We need to institute a community ban.
It's not that. It's just so swingy. The game is over. When this happens, okay, we stop playing now. Okay. It is very strong. But yeah, that we had a lot of discussion around this in a fun way.
All right, next card I'm talking about is going to be Ink Geyser. Thoughts?
I think Ink Geyser is fun. I've explored that. I think it's really cool. I don't necessarily know that it's the most competitive way to build it, but it is a powerful card, and if the right tools come out, it has the opportunity to be a card that really it's resource management in these games, land destruction, if from our Magic players and stuff like that, is a big turnoff for a lot of people. Discard and land destruction. Those are the two things that casual players and people that are learning the game really get traumatized by. And if that is the best thing that is going, everybody knows when Bucky was the best thing going. Either of those things, if they are the best thing to be doing, it is a dangerous place for the game. So it's really powerful. It's something to watch as new cards are printed, right? Like, is Ink Geyser a thing? We need to be looking at this card again. Right now it's not, but that's where it's a very powerful tool.
Okay. One more card. We got to talk about Clarabelle, the big one. Light on her hooves. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think it's an interesting build-around card, and I think it overall promotes good gameplay. If you ask Franz from the Loungers, he will tell you something very different. If you shout out to him, we didn't argue, but we just had chats back and forth. But he also wants to ban Sale. He's a ridiculous person. Okay. So so I don't know. I think build-around cards are a good thing in the game. It's a card that promotes being a very linear strategy that kind of builds around. So I'm a fan for the most part. I think it's a cool card.
All right, the last card we're going to talk about, again, my least favorite card, DLC winning, Tipo Growing Sun. Thoughts on Tipo?
I like Ramp. Big fan.
Okay. Goated?
Let's end this. I don't want you question for 2 on turn 2.
Okay.
In any scenario, I don't Daisy Duck. Get it out of here. I want that banned. I do not want to see any more triple Daisy starts or triple Curse Merfolk starts. I have lost more to those starts than anything else in my entire Lorcana. The second set champs I ever played at locals. Shout out to Zach if he's watching. I'll make sure he watches. He crushed me with. I thought I was in the driver's seat, feeling good. My red blue deck. I was confident. I knew what I was doing. And this man, triple Merfolk. Oh my God, I'm dead. And and they always have it. They always have the triple Daisy. They always have triple Merfolk. And I don't want to be involved in any of that. Sorry, ZZ. What was the original question? My trauma's coming to the surface here.
No, you can have your trauma. I was saying Tipo. I think we should. We're going to ban Daisy. We got to ban Tipo too. Get him out of here, man.
Tipo gets rid of that Merfolk, and that's what we need.
He's too good.
Tipo's fine. Leave people alone.
Okay. We'll leave him alone. The growing son, he works for you now, and I'll have to live with that forever. But Fungus, DLC champion Fungus, I want to thank you so very much for giving me some of your time and coming through here and sharing your story. I learned so much just from hearing you talk, man, and I want to hear more. Where can I find more Fungus? We need you on YouTube. We need you on Twitch. We need you to put out some of the information, because I felt myself gain a ton of experience just from sharing this time with you. So where can I find you?
Yeah, so for best way to find me right now is Fungus TCG on YouTube. We could probably drop a link, that kind of thing. I am, I've made a lot of videos. I'm very amateur video maker, but I've been in the space for a long time and hopefully have some good content. So if you can get through my editing, just bypass that part. Don't worry about that. Just listen to it, maybe. There's some good stuff out there. I try to make content anytime I think I have something meaningful to contribute. So I'm a big believer in, I don't like, I hate to say this, I don't like slop, right? There's a lot of people that will just, throw a couple cards on the screen, like best deck ever, this kind of stuff. I feel like we need to talk about, especially for people who are trying to grow in Lorcana or trying to really take to heart strategic advice and stuff like that. Hyperbole is bad, being super over the top and saying, always and nevers are a bad thing. Let's talk through it, talk about the ifs and whys, and and talk through all the explanatory stuff. So I try to have content that I'm a teacher and I'm an instructional designer. I teach adults, I teach children. So I try to break things down where I am being educational and getting you to a new place when you're done with things, at least giving you, some special piece of knowledge that you couldn't have got for yourself. So that's my goal with building content, and I hopefully more people go there, have constructive content. Make sure that you ask yourself when you're putting a new video out there and blasting it to the world, are we contributing positively, or am I just copying the deck list from the weekend and saying, oh, I don't like this, and then shut it down. I have been the victim of that so many times where I've had a top 8 and they're like, yeah, this deck looks like trash. I don't think you should play this. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how much we're contributing with that kind of stuff. Sorry, I'm ranting here, buddy.
No,
but
this is your time. This is your time to rant as much as you like.
I do value constructive content, so it really is my goal. People have asked me for a Metafy guide. There are Metafy guides on Blue Green out there, but I want to make sure I'm contributing something on top of what we already have available to us. So if you want that, definitely watch out for it. I will put something out there. I think I'd have something to contribute additionally to what the resources are in the community, but. That's really my goal. I also offer one-on-one coaching that, because I come from a educational space, that is often a good place to be if you're trying to get over that last little edge and just understand kind of the nuanced and niche play lines, before your big event. That's the best way to grow sometimes. I've had a lot of success with people going deep into tournaments, doing very well with just a little bit of coaching and talking about play lines on the draw, especially a deck like this. You can play a lot of reps and then, come to the table with that knowledge and then, sharpen just a little bit more and you'll take that tournament down sometimes. So
wonderful. That's some good stuff, man. You guys, the link will be down in the description, so make sure you get over there and check him out and show him some support, man, because he clearly knows what he's talking about and he can put that dedication and to work and help you get to that mountaintop too. But Fungus, no one gets to the mountaintop alone. Do you have any special shout outs? Who helped you get here? Anybody that you want to give some that you haven't already shouted out before? Any shout outs that you want to throw in there?
I'll try to go around the world here a little bit. For my wife, obviously, for putting up with me and letting me play games on these weekends. She drove me to Richmond and helped me just get there without having to, jump in a packed car or anything like that. We had a really casual way to Richmond, and it really helped to just be in a good mental state and physical state to get there. That's something I've been trying to work on too, is not making sure I'm not sleeping on the floor, man. Like I said, I'm pushing 40 years old here. I can't be sleeping on a cot. I can't be sleeping on the floor. We're going to do poor in that tournament if I do that. So making sure, I got there in one piece in a good mental state, hydrated and ready to do my best is a really important piece. So that support group for me this weekend was my wife. She got me there and helped me drive it and kept me in things. But for testing groups and stuff, the loungers had a big role to play. You know, all those guys are super supportive, bouncing ideas off of each other. They've been a group where I have been out here without a team for a long time. The loungers have kind of filled in that gap, where a lot of people that just are strong at the game and want to grow together are in that group. So shout out to those guys. Sailor and the Maelstrom guys have also been very supportive. All, you know, friends with all those guys, and especially Sailor, who worked on Green Blue a lot this set as well. We've thrown some ideas back and forth. So I know he played the deck as well this weekend. Had some bad beats at certain points, but he definitely contributed a lot to this deck. Very early on, I'll shout out again to JP from my European buddy over there, who had a big run with Blue Green at his Continentals in the first season. He's been instrumental in kind of the early stages of this deck, so I definitely want to give him his credit. He definitely was one of the early pioneers of the deck, and then I kind of took the wheel from there, and we're able to drive it to where we have it now. Pandemonium obviously has been around the block a few times. He's got a different version of the deck that he plays, but we share thoughts quite a bit, and that's, you know, a good little think tank is, you know, kind of there's a few big people that really dig this strategy and are control players at heart, that kind of thing, and have been contributing to this deck. The 20 Lore Pro Discord for Blue Green obviously is another big resource. There's a lot of folks in there that are just fanatics of this type of play style and just looking to grow on it. And there's some really good ideas thrown out there sometimes. So if you don't have any other resources, definitely jump on the 20 Lore Pro Discord. You know, take everything with a grain of salt. I'm gonna tell you that, because anybody can post there and everybody will post there. But you can sort through the noise a little bit sometimes. There's some, you know, there are people trying to be constructive and doing their best in there. You know, and you can take those ideas and test them yourself, right? That's one of those big things about community is, you know, everybody, if they're willing to contribute, if there's ideas out there in the universe, if you have the skills to kind of position those ideas and do something with them, you know, that's a really good place to be. So, but you got to start with the ideas. If some people, not everybody's an ideas person. So get in these groups, start talking to people, find other like players that are strong, and build each other up. I guess that's the big thing for me. Right now, yeah, again, not on a formal team, but I have a lot of networks that I've been able to build just by doing well, and, you know, people asking me for advice and vice versa. So connect with people, try to have constructive conversations, and that's, I think, one of the big ways to build your game up once you get that initial skill level up. No, JD, just you know, I appreciate you shouting me out a couple of different times, but check out my YouTube, guys. It's something where I'm probably going to put my most information out there. And I do want to put out a lot of information there, but it helps if you come by and give me a sub. Just check, you know, if you sub, you'll see my posts that I make there as well. I do make posts on Twitter as well, but sometimes that's not the easiest way for me to put out, you know, good information, because it's a very short form messaging. So my YouTube posts, and through my YouTube membership tier, I have a Discord where I do share thoughts that are a little more, you know, to the point sometimes. So if you're interested in just growing more as a player, especially if you like this type of play style, you like control decks, you know, you like red blue control, you like blue steel, you like, you know, green blue, these style of decks are the types of decks that I am going to gravitate towards. And no matter what, you know, set it is, I am going to be trying to refine them. So if you're a control player and you kind of are in that same mindset, then maybe a good place for you to be. And I have, you know, there's a lot of good conversation that goes on there, and hopefully more to come soon.
Absolutely. But again, Fungus, I want to thank you so much for coming by. And while you're here as well, if you guys are enjoying this, make sure you get down to the comment section after you found Fungus's YouTube and subscribe. Get some questions in there. I'm certain he can watch those questions and maybe put some answers there as well. So I want to thank all of you guys for watching it. As always, please make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe to this video if you like videos like this, and we'll have more coming your way. Well, my fellow Lumineers, until next time, I'm JDZ. I'm on a quest. Shout out to the real one. Salute to your G's. Peace. Do, goo, 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 goo.